It's a terrible thing when parents ignore and neglect a child for whom attention, love, and security are just as important as food and water and oxygen. If you grew up starved for comfort, you may find yourself now, as an adult, trying to make do in relationships where you get almost nothing back. And the hardest part is, you can't let go. My letter today is from a woman I'll call Lena, and she writes, "Hello, Anna. I'm 46 years old, and for most of my life I've been single. 5 years ago, I fell in love." All right, I've got my fairy pencil here, and I'm going to circle things I want to come back to on a second reading, but let's see what's going on in Lena's life. She says she fell in love at first sight. We experienced an intense love. We're deeply spiritually connected, and after 4 years, he left me. For me, it was someone I would have loved being with all my entire life. Today, 11 months later, I'm still grieving, and I can feel the heartbreak as if it happened yesterday. I still feel physical pain, not only mental pain and heart pain. I have no kids, and I was never married, though I wanted and want to. When people ask me why, the question is offending me a little bit because it makes me feel as if there's something wrong with me. I always say that I just didn't meet the right man. The paradox is, love is what I wish for. It is the most important desire for me, giving someone love and receiving it, being in love and experiencing love and a loving partnership. Because I ask myself over and over why my ex of 4 years left me, he just left one day, sending a text message, not explaining why. I dove deep into psychology and read many books, mostly to understand myself and what I might have contributed to him leaving, so that I never need to go through such a tough experience again. I wanted to see what I can't see yet and work on myself. I believe I'm emotionally unstable in a way that I have jealousy issues. I never showed it. I would just withdraw and spend a lot of time alone. And I seem to be very anxious in cities and around many people. I'm also highly sensitive, which makes me withdraw even more because I tend to get tired easily, as too many stimuli overwhelm me. I think my ex must have felt neglected or as if I haven't given back enough, but that is just an assumption. My parents are still married, and I only discovered in the past 5 years that my mom is emotionally unstable to this day. She's extremely moody, and her choice of words are hurtful. She always reacts, never responds. I think the question, "How are you feeling?" I never received. My dad was away in the Army for the first 4 years of my life, and both parents worked a lot. My mom was always there, but emotionally unavailable. She always hates activities or nature, and so we never did or do things together. When I think of her, I always see her back turned toward me. Eyes that never really look at me but have something else in mind, and eyes that wander around. Usually she says, "I'm busy," or "I have to cook now," or "I need to go to the toilet." I never get angry with anyone. I don't fight. I don't get into arguments. But with her, I get very angry, and sometimes we scream at each other and shut doors. I feel so bad inside when that happens because it only happens around her, and I noticed I go down on her level when I'm around her now. As a child, I would just go alone, be alone and lonely. I always felt lonely. My dad did many activities with me, taught me skiing, swimming, and collecting mushrooms, all about birds and how to make things. I grew up in the east part of Germany before the wall fell, and it was a hard and ugly life. I remember how unhappy I was at school and how unseen and unheard and unloved I felt. There it is. Actually, it turns out that I became the opposite of my mom because I always wanted to be the exact opposite to her. I'm caring, loving, and kind. I'm soft-spoken and creative and timid and often afraid to be brave. In my last relationship, I noticed that my ex would also withdraw and sometimes not call me for weeks or not invite me to a birthday party of his friends. In the relationship, I acted the same way when I was a child. I simply withdrew and switched my phone off and then traveled alone for 1 or 2 weeks to the ocean. Because the ocean is my lifesaver. My ex said one time, "I feel ghosted by you." That's a paradox to me, as I felt he excluded me from his life, and then I feel not seen and feel more anxious somehow. I want to stop here and hope I've given enough background information for you to respond to me. and to be able to give tips. I don't want to ever react to my mom anymore, and I need to leave that anger behind. She's 76 and will and doesn't want to change. I need and want to rise above all this and firstly, not react toward her anymore because it slows me down. The recovery time takes me weeks after a hurtful argument. And mostly I want to bring into my life a romantic partner, experience the fullness of love and partnership and be stable enough so I can create a commitment for life out of that. I want to show up as the best version of myself that I can be. Someone that is not jealous, not afraid, not anxious. Someone with self-esteem and pride, healthy pride, and someone that can communicate right away what I need when feeling, again, that I want to withdraw or when I get jealous, so that the other person knows what is going on and that I have, therefore, a good chance of navigating a relationship as opposed to leaving the room, going on a holiday, or withdrawing. My biggest fear was always that breakup, and my biggest fear became a reality. I still wish for a kid. I still wish to get married, but maybe these things don't matter as much as finding and giving love. Since I'm highly sensitive, I'm not on dating apps. I have some bad experiences with it. I'm living in the countryside, in nature. I work only online, and I have no social network around me. Okay. I travel the world, so I made great friendships, but I decided 6 years ago to come back home. And so I have no friends here. During my 4-year relationship, I focused only on us. Actually, the reason was that I love being alone and by myself, and I choose every opportunity to be alone. Well, also because I'm highly sensitive, I spent most of my free time in nature and doing sports or yoga alone, but that works against me now, as I have no starting point in getting to know people. I hope that this shows you something about me because I can be unorganized and fall into a freeze state when I need to decide what to do during the day. The relationship was complex, and life is complex, and people are complex, so I'm not even sure whether I picked the right information for you to see something valuable to share with me. I hope you do. Many thanks, Anna. I appreciate your channel and the work you do. Okay, Lena, what a beautiful letter. What a beautiful letter. I sense you are just so on the cusp of finding what you want. And it's interesting because you felt you were sort of pulling together some pieces of trying to make a little patchwork, a mosaic of who you are and what's going on here. And I think you did a marvelous job. I do get a feeling for you. 46 years old. 4-year relationship that was super deep, and then he just left. All right, Lena, so I guess my big takeaway from your letter is that you might be idealizing this man in this relationship, and that how that was happening. I don't think you're crazy or anything. You know, I see your trauma wounds. I see that you're very avoidant right now. This whole thing of living in nature and not dealing with people in order to manage your triggers is so normal for someone with complex PTSD. And what you described from your childhood sounds like, yeah, that would do it. That vacantness of your mother, that lack of attention to who you are. I'm glad your father, when he was in your life, was very loving and showed you things about nature and gave you a love of that. So you had some good things, but your mother, it just seems like you're still very much trapped in this vortex of trying to heal that relationship. And of course, when we have a traumatizing parent, it's not always going to work out the way it does on TV. And for people who didn't have trauma, where you have a conversation with them and they have introspection and they come through and talk to you about what happened and change their behavior. Like, probably your mom sounds a little like mine, and it didn't come for me, and I healed anyway, and you can too. You can too. It's you know, you got robbed. You didn't get what any little girl should have, but you got enough to be who you are today, which is extraordinary and lovely. And you can work with this. You can work with who you are. So, and wanting to find love and possibly have a kid, I'm behind you all the way. All right. These are good goals, and I want you to have it. And I think you're capable of it. But it's this thing where you're avoiding life because it's too stimulating for you that's probably working against you. And I have a feeling that this relationship probably had red flags all over it. People don't just ghost you after 4 years for no reason without dropping some kind of clue that they're unavailable or not accepting you. Like something was there that you maybe weren't able to process. I wasn't there, I don't know, but I'm going to ask you to think about that. Something was there. He certainly wasn't making a commitment and saying, you know, I would like to settle down with you. I want to be with you forever. That, Like, he didn't do those things. He didn't get married. He didn't have a child with you. So you had this information coming in, and some part of you, which is like such a traumatized kid thing to do, some part of you was like, that's okay. I'll take this half version of what I want. I won't say anything about it. And if I feel jealous or rejected, this thing where he celebrated his birthday with friends and you weren't invited, there's your red flag. That's not good. That's not loving, kind behavior. And this part of you that says it was the most spiritual love, I just wonder sometimes if we don't spiritualize love because the material plane of love, of like celebrating birthdays together, is not there. So we're like, but it's very spiritual. It's a connection on another level. That is what we call crap fit at Crappy Childhood Fairy. We fit ourselves to unacceptable people and situations because we're just so very good at it from childhood. And you had to do that as a kid. I mean, your dad wasn't even there the first 4 years. So you had this mom not looking at you. I totally relate to that. I understand. When you described what you would be like as your best self, expressing yourself, not just running away when the going gets tough. So if you had expressed yourself in the first 6 months even, if he was the sort of person who can't take it or doesn't accept you as you are, which you must have feared, well, then good that he would have gotten out of the way before consuming 4 years of your life only to ghost you and leave you with this giant unanswered question. When we can get these questions answered early, it's so much better, and we get to live our life and, make new relationships and learn things about ourselves, but we get to have communication. Everybody has a right to have communication, and it's very abusive to leave without explaining to somebody why, and I'm really sorry that happened to you. So good riddance to him. I hope you can stop idealizing him as this perfect love. It wasn't good love. It wasn't good at all. It was somebody who would do that to you. That's not love. It might be what your mom would have done to you, but it's not love. And so somebody who loves you, even if they don't want to be with you, if they care about you, they help you have enough information to process what happened. They care about how you're going to deal with it later. They think about such things, and they go to an extra effort to do their best with it. So I get you're sensitive. It sounds like you're a bit introverted maybe. And but this thing where you live in the country, it kind of parallels the pandemic, right? Your exodus from civilization. But you had this relationship. And I think it's so important for those of us who struggle in relationships and with trauma wounds, we can really do ourselves a disservice when we use a relationship as our everything. There, now I don't have to deal with the world. I'll just hang out with you. I'll put all my eggs in this basket. And then this birthday thing happens and you have to go to the ocean alone to cope and feel sad. No. If you have friends, and you have friends, you said you had friends all over the world from traveling, I really encourage you to come back to your friends and get ready to make new ones, to start connecting with people. Now, people who are rusty, who are not connecting very easily with others, often need to approach it slowly. You might want to take a look at my Connection Bootcamp. It's a course, it's a 30-day program where you take a little step each day toward reconnecting with people. You can get that down in the description section. Don't forget, it's got a little more thing where you open it up to open up the full set of links that are available to you under all my videos. But it only shows you the first 2 or 3 lines. You have to click that little more thing that opens it and see what's there. Connection Bootcamp. You can also find that and all my courses on my website at crappychildhoodfairy.com. But a lot of people who had trauma, because people are so triggering, even if it's not really our core nature to want to be alone, we've been avoiding people as a way to manage our triggers so that we don't get so dysregulated we can't function. It's a natural and kind of somewhat self-protective thing to do, but in the end, it ends up like where you are right now. So now's your time. Now you get to come back out. You could also look at the dating course where you can get very clear about what you want so that you don't go into a relationship with this vague assumption that love is coming, commitment is coming, and feel like you can't ask, that you can't make that a criteria for continuing a relationship with somebody quite early on. If they're not open to, what you want in your life, they're not a good person for you to date. And you can have these questions out on the table very early on, but you first have to start with getting clear with yourself. The thing I want to leave you with is a list of red flags to watch for. So as you start stepping out of your comfort zone, I would like you to look for red flags in people. And it's very easy to see these in other people. It's very hard for us to see it in people we feel excited about. When you've been lonely a long time and somebody interesting comes along, The promise that it's going to finally give you a home, somewhere to go every night where you have a companion and where you're safe and you can have dinner together is such a big thing that it's very, very hard to keep your eyes open and go, oh no, wait, no, there's a red flag. This one's not the one. So if you can keep this list with you and check it when you're first meeting somebody, this can be very handy. It's a free PDF. You can download it right here, and I will see you very soon.